spite of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said that. You got me. I like sometimes I laugh because it's the truth. You know, you hear the truth and you start laughing.
Yeah.
There's other times when you laugh because you're afraid of crying or something like that.
Hmm.
So I understand exactly. I clearly understand what you're saying. You know,
Praise y'all.
yeah, he could have wiped us out
Hmm.
completely,
Oh yeah.
completely decimated us as a people and said, you know what, I'm done.
Hmm.
I'm done talking. I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and kill everybody.
Right.
And he hasn't done that, you know. So
No, you wonder how many times it's like a child being scolded by its parent or told not to do something for
mhm.
so many times. And after a while, you're not going to, you're not going to say, don't do it anymore.
No,
And that's kind of how I feel about the world right now.
yeah,
We're so far gone
yeah,
that you can't help but wonder how much longer Yahweh is going to put up with us.
yeah, yeah. That's very true. That's
Mhm.
something I'm thinking about too. Like you think about all the crime, just the crime alone, just the way that people treat each other and what we're doing. Like I'm talking about the human race
Yes.
and the perversion and the sexual nature of their sins and the transgender and the whole homosexual agenda and how people are treating seniors and how this new generation has come and really don't care about anybody except for themselves and
Hmm.
they're just totally entitled.
Yes.
And I think it's a buildup. Like how long will this go on? you
Hmm.
know and
Yeah.
I'm afraid for my children, but they're part of that generation and try to get them to see things is very difficult. I mean, I got a 24-year-old son, I got a 22-year-old daughter, I have a 14 turning 15-year-old daughter. So they're forced with a whole bunch of things around them and there's a lot of influences
Hmm.
and you're watching these things happen before your eyes and there's really nothing that you can do except for warn them and try to convince them that if they are to go outside of what the Holy One of Israel's talking about, it could be very detrimental for them. It could be very painful for them. And
Yeah.
everyone thinks they're going to be young forever. So,
Hmm.
they think they could make mistakes. Like when I was a kid back in the 70s, right? I was like, if you made a mistake, you had some time to kind of, gather yourself, try to recover from it. If you had a bad experience, you could try to, rebound, come out of it. Not today.
Yeah.
Once you step out now, that's it. You know,
Hmm.
yeah. So, they think I'm a little harsh, but I'm just telling them the truth. But like you said, the Holy One of Israel has been talking to us for a long time, and we're talking
Yeah.
about thousands of years.
Hmm.
And he hasn't, and he's been watching us and going through time with us and seeing us. And people get offended when I say that he's not with us, meaning I should better say that we're not with him.
Hmm.
We're not in his presence, in the sense that we're around him. We're in the vicinity where he is and he dwells. So we like to think, and I don't know why we're like that. I think about it's like, well, why are we like that? Why are we calling everything that's contaminated a blessing? And why are we saying that everything, we're in a land of wickedness. And
Yes.
yet these people out here are saying that they're blessed. They're saying that he's with them. They're saying that he has his spirit. They're saying all these different things. And I'm like, have you not read where he says that if a person was to even take a bowel movement and if in my vicinity, it better be a hole in the ground outside the camp and throw some dirt over it because
Hmm.
I walk among you. And and if it's not clean, I'm out of here. I'm leaving.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, we have some different ideas about the holiness of the Creator. It's weird. is really weird. But let's go ahead and get started in our lesson tonight. I guess a couple of other people are not going to be able to make it tonight, and that's okay. I have some really exciting things to talk about, especially well tonight as well, but also during this coming up Shabbat. I have a presentation that I put together some time ago, and I understand it a lot more than what I have in the past. Okay. Here, I'll just give you a little idea of what we're going to be talking about. Just a little brief forecast. We're going to be dealing with this Torah portion called Wa'era. Okay, they call it Va'era, but it's really Wa'era. And that's how you pronounce it. It means I appeared. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. I appeared. There's other Torah portions that, and that's the name of our Torah portion. There's other Torah portions that are very similar to that. So here again, my little website that I go to, kabah.org, gives us the time right here. So where's it at? Okay. Shemot, and see, it's Wa'era. All right. Wa'era. Right here, this we're going to be reading. Okay. You look over here, they got one called Wa'era. So this is Wa'era, and this is Wa'era with a yod in it. The yod means he. So again, the Wa is and, he, and then appeared. And at this one, in Genesis, it's talking about how the Creator had appeared to Abraham. Okay. And here, the one that we're going to be dealing with this week is talking about and appeared. And he's going to tell you how he appeared to us versus how he appeared to them. So we're going to be reading out of Exodus chapter 6, verse 2, all the way to chapter 9, verse 39. Not tonight, okay? But what we do is we read little portions of it. So for example, again, we'll click right here and it's going to tell us our days. Okay, because you have to stay on the Torah portion. You have to. There's no way around. Otherwise, you won't understand it. So we click on Torah reading, and so what we have up here is the 7 days. Okay, so day number 1 tells us here that it's going to be chapter number 6, and it's not a lot. You know, it's chapter number 6, verse number 2 through verse number 13. That's day number 1. So when you read this, you just read it for this portion for that first day, and that first day is called the Rishon in Hebrew, Rishon, Rishon, okay? And Rishon has to do with the word Rosh. Rosh comes from the letter Resh. Rosh means head or the top, okay? And so that, because it's the top of the week, okay? The second day is called Shani, and that's the day that you would click on for the following day, which would be, in our understanding of the day, Monday. Click on there, and there you go. It's going to be chapter number 6, verse 14 through 28. So what we want to do tonight is I'm going to read these things to us tonight, and we're going to get some insight about this understanding about how he appeared. Knowing how he appeared is very important, okay? Because a lot of us want, I mean, if we could, we say that we want him to appear to them. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I always ask, can I, when I was a Christian, I used to ask Holy One, can I seek, I want you to visit me. I want you to come see me, right? Because I didn't know how holy it was. So I don't ask for that right now. I ask, actually, can you reveal some information to me about your teaching? So we're going to read chapter 6, and we're going to go to 7, all the way to 7 verses. And that's all we're going to cover. Okay. Just want to kind of let you know how we do this, and it's organized. So as students, and what we do is we want to follow a pattern, a path, like I've been saying. Let's get directly into it because we only have a certain amount of time. We're going to go, and I'm going to read it in English. And the only reason I'm going to be on here on this website right here is because I want you guys to kind of not be afraid of the Hebrew, right? I don't want you to be afraid of the Hebrew. All right. So it's not verse number 1, it's verse number 2. So last week we read up to verse number 1. But today it's like, well, why would you start in verse 2? Because that's where the Torah portion starts. Okay. So what it says is this. And you guys stop me, ask questions. You have any questions whatsoever if you don't understand something. Okay. And it says, why the bear Elohim the El Moshe, which is to say, and spoke Elohim to Moshe. And why Yomed Allah, meaning he said to him, and again, I'm reading this way. And the reason why I'm reading in Hebrew is because I want you to get used to hearing it. Okay, this is our culture. This is our language. This is the language in which the Torah is written in. It's written in Hebrew. Okay, that's what it is. And they've translated into English. But you can, just like you know how to say I, you got to train yourself to say ani. You can say that. You just haven't said it. That's all it is. Instead of you saying Yahweh, his name is Yahweh. Okay, you can say that. You know how to say Moshe or Moses. Okay, there's Moshe, right? And you learn how to say these words, and that's it. Okay, so this I told you is talking about a strong authority. So the Creator is letting him know that this lamed right here is a staff. So you can see that by the staff is used to lead. So when it says that the Elohim spoke to Moshe, okay, that means that when he's speaking to him, he's putting a staff on him. He's leading him in the way that he wants him to go. Okay. And then he said to him, Ani Yahweh. That's what he said. That's what he called his name. He said, Ani Yahweh. Why is he already told him what his name is in chapter number 3. Why is he telling us in chapter number 6? Because he's going to share with us what that means. A little extra. He said, and here's our Torah portion right here. Wa era, and I appeared to Avraham. There you go. There's that strong authority again. That's the ox head, meaning strength, and this is a staff, which you would lead somebody with. Okay, a staff. The letter Lamed is a staff, and it's right here. So again, a Lamed means staff. It means to lead and to teach. So I appeared to him. Okay, to Yitzchak, I put the staff on him. So I put a staff on Abraham. I put the strong authority on Yitzchak, and I put a strong authority on Yaakov. So the question is he, so he's saying how he appeared to them. And he says, the way that I appeared to them is by this name. This one is called Ba as a letter B, Al. Okay, or El, by El. Put it right here. By El. Okay. The Ba right here is as, and El is power. Power of powers. Okay. And Shaddai. Shaddai has to do with the breast. And it means the burly one. It means the warrior. It means the self-sufficient one. Okay. So that's how I appeared to them. I showed up to them as Baal Shaddai. Okay. You guys heard of the name El Shaddai. Okay. Shad right here means breast. That's why women have breast. Power. Okay. And here I means my. Okay. So when they called him El Shaddai, they were saying they were the power of the breast. Oh, why am I laughing? Why am I laughing? I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing, because I've never seen this before. Okay. Why do you think he's called my power of the breast? Why would he give them that name? Anybody? Just take a guess. It's not being right or wrong. Just trying to get you to think.
Because he provides for them.
Yes, good. So with the breast is used for providing. Okay. So that's what the breast does. They provide, and they provide sustenance. In our case, it's milk. Okay. It's mother's milk. Okay. So here's the question. So when he went to Abraham, who was Abraham married to?
Sarah.
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 Yeah. Okay. So, and before her name was Sarai, her name, before her name was Sarah, her name was Sarah. So
Right.
Sarai, and Sarai, was she able to have a child?
No.
No. But because he came to him and he appeared to him. Okay. All right. I want to show you something. Woo, praise the Holy One of Israel. It's funny because I was like, yeah, why would you bring me over to Waira? Why would you bring me? And I'm going to show you. Why would you bring me? Because I've read this one. I'm reading this one this week. And then he said, go visit this right quick. And I was like, okay, let me go visit it. So I went to go read it because they're similar. They're, the Wa and the Era. I'm like, okay, so what's the connection? So when you go here in chapter number 18, which I'm going to take you right quick, just to show you the power of the Torah. Okay, I'm going to show you the power of the Torah. When you go to chapter number 18 of book of Genesis, Yahweh appeared to Abraham as El Shaddai. Okay, here's the crazy part. The name El Shaddai is not mentioned whatsoever in any of the chapter 18 through 22, not at all. So Yah's not trying to get us to know a title. You know what Yah's trying to get us to understand? His character. All right. So listen, it said Yahweh appeared to Abraham. That's the name of the Torah portion, right? Right here, Exodus chapter number 18, verse 1. Right. By the oaks of Mamre, and he sat at the entrance of his tent on the heat of the day. He raised his eyes, he looked up, in front of him stood three men. On seeing them, he ran to the tent of the door, to the door to meet them, prostrated on the ground, and he said, my master, if I found favor in your sight, please don't leave your servant. Please let me send for some water so that I can wash your feet, and then you rest under the tree. Okay. And I will bring a piece of bread. Right. I will bring a piece of bread. And now that you have come to your servant, refresh yourselves before going on. And guess what they said? Very well, they replied. Do what you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent to who? He went into the tent to Sarah. This is who he went to. He went to Sarah. And he said this to her. He said, quickly, 3 measures of the best flour needed. Why? Why 3 measures? Because each one of those individuals is going to get a cake. And Abraham ran to the herd, and he took out a tender calf and he gave it to the servant who hurried to prepare it. Then he took the curds of milk and the calf and he prepared it. And then he set it before the men, and he stood up underneath the tree as they ate. Okay. So we're like, okay, what does all this mean? And he said to them, listen. And they said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? He said, there in the tent. Guess what he said? And he said, I will certainly return to you around this time next year. Sarah, your wife, Sarah, will have a son. Sarah heard him in the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in their years, and Sarah was past the age of bearing children. So what did she do? As an old woman, what did she do? She laughed. And that word laugh there means yitzchak. That's what the word in Hebrew means for laughter. That's why this boy's name is called Yitzchak, because she laughed. And Abraham laughed in chapter number 17. She's laughing in chapter number 18. And she said, I am old, and so is my master, her Lord. And am I to have pleasure? She's asking, am I supposed to get some pleasure at this age? Right? She's 90 years old. Okay. Or excuse me, she's not 90, she's 89. She's 89 and he's 99. So so Yahweh said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? Remember, she's in the tent. And asked, am I really going to bear a child when I'm so old? Okay. And then he asked, is anything too hard for Yahweh? See? So here you see that Yahweh has revealed to him. He asked the question, is anything too hard for Yahweh? But I just thought that we read in Exodus that said that I didn't reveal myself to your fathers as Yahweh, but I revealed myself to them as El Shaddai. So the average reader of the English would say that that's not true. There's a mistake. Somebody made a error in it. And what I'm trying to tell you is that these names, this right here is a title. This is not his name. This is a title. And when it talks about the breast, the reason why he mentions the breast is because the way that he revealed himself to Abraham and to Sarah was talking about him giving her a what? A son. He's about to make sure that her breast we're about to provide. Got it? This is the reason why he said, I appeared to them as El Shaddai. Not only because he protected them, but also too what he was going to do for them. So Sarah was not able to have a child. She was barren. Okay. So just to kind of let you know, I'm going to give you the giddy up on the breast. The women who were not able to have children were Sarah, Rivka, which they have Rebecca, and Raquel. Okay. You know who Sarah's husband is? Is Abraham. Who's Rivka, Rebecca's husband?
Yitzchak.
Yitzchak. Who is Raquel's husband?
Yaakov.
Yaakov. Now, do you see why he said, I revealed myself to them as El Shaddai? Because she couldn't have a child. She couldn't have a child. Yitzchak had to pray for her to have children. She was barren. And he prayed on her behalf, and then Yah blessed them with Yaakov and Esau. Raquel couldn't have children. She went to Yaakov and said, it's your fault. And he said, no, you need to go pray and ask Yah. Am I the one to open up a womb? Right? So this whole idea about Yah and the breast is talking about, Yah says the women that they dealt with, they weren't able to give milk to a child. They were unbarren. I mean, they were barren. Okay. So this is the reason why he's saying this, not only in how he protected them along the way, and also too, generally when a child is crying out, the Holy One of Israel will answer. So he's kind of like, like when they were running to the breast of Yah. Okay. So when a man looks at a woman and we're trying to understand, well, why is she with breast? Is simply because she has the attributes of the Holy One of Israel. That's what breasts are for. The breasts are to provide milk to a child and to nourish. The breasts are used for comfort when a child is crying, they need to be hugged by their mother. So even, not to say that Yah has breasts, he created the breast. Not to say that Yah has eyes, he created the eye. He understands the purpose of it. So what Yah has done for a woman is he's saying, I want you to be like me. I want you to be comforting. I want you to be nourishing. I want you to be very protective over your children. When a child cries, what happens? And the mother's nursing, she begins to lactate. She starts producing milk. Okay. So Yah is saying, I'm very protective. Israel can cry out to me and I'll hear them. Okay. Especially these individuals. So I wanted to show you guys that that's the reason why his name is, his title is called El Shaddai. Any questions? Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yes, it is.
It's a beautiful thing. So again, back in Exodus chapter number 6, verse number 2, he says, and he spoke Elohim to Moshe, and he said to him, Ani Yahweh. So why is he saying that? And he said, I appeared, verse number 3, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, Be'el, as El Shaddai. That's how I appeared. But he says, but the Shemi, my name, because this book is talking about the names. That's why he's mentioning, that's why this is here, because the Shem is right here. The Shem right here. That's the name, Shem. But he says Shemi. The Shemi right here means my name. My name is Yahweh. Okay, but I did not appear. They don't know me. Lo nadati. Okay. No dati, lahim. They don't know me by this name. Even though they had altars that had his name on it, even though Yahweh says can Yahweh not do this? Even though Noah knew the name Yahweh, he's saying that these individuals that I just told you, they don't know me. They don't have a yada. They don't not know me intimately by this particular name. In Hebrew, the word, they got, all kind of letters and stuff on here for grammatical reasons, but the word is called yada. Okay. And yada is to know something, but to know it and very familiar with it. Okay. And it's in a very private way, a very intimate way. They're not familiar with me. I didn't let them know me like how I'm going to let you know. That's why he said, I need Yahweh. That's why he says, that's the first thing he said. He said to him, he said to Moshe, I need Yahweh. He says, the Shemi, Yahweh, they nadati. They did not know me by this. They don't know me by this. I'm not known to them by this name. Okay. And he's going to tell us why. Okay. Well, just off of what we know, how they did know him as El Shaddai, was there any other situation in these stories about Israel ever having a problem being fruitful and having children? Huh? No. What the story in Shemot, because that's the name of the Torah portion or the book that we're in, the scroll, the book of Shemot begins by telling us about the children of Israel? That they increased in their numbers. They're increasing and with children. This is the reason why Egypt wanted to get rid of them, because they're increasing. Okay. So Israel's not having a problem producing kids. Actually, their children are being killed. Okay. So he says, and Wegam, the Hakamoti, meaning I have established. Okay. Also, I established a Borith, my Borithi, right? Borithi means my covenant. I gave them my covenant. With who? With them. So he's talking about the covenant he established with Yaakov and Yitzchak and Abraham. I established my covenant with them, with these individuals. And what did he establish? Okay. What did he put in stone for them? He said, I established a covenant with them to do something for them. That is to give to them the land of the Canaan and the land of their Magudrehim, the places where they were sojourning as strangers. Okay. So what Yah said to them is, that's his Barithi, that's his covenant. This is what he covenanted with them, and the covenant is for land. Okay. And the land that they were what? And he's very specific about the land he's talking about, the land that they were sojourning in. Okay. The Magudrehim, the one that they walked around in. Because remember, he told them, I need you to go and walk around in this land, because this is what I'm going to show you. And I need you to take your footsteps on every part that you set your foot. I'm going to give it to you. So this is why Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov were always wandering around. They were dwelling in Shechem. They were dwelling in Gergar. They were dwelling in the land of Philistines. They were dwelling in all these different places. They were dwelling among the Canaanites, okay, which are the Canaan. They were dwelling in all these places, and which they were, Gadru, they're strangers in it. That little dot right there represents possessive, meaning that's the land that they were dwelling in, the one that they were doing their sojournings in, okay, the one they walked in, okay. That's why he told him to Lakah to Abraham. That's why he told Yitzchak in chapter number 26, Genesis 26 and 5, or 1 through 5, don't go anywhere. You stay right here. Don't leave this land. Don't go down to Egypt. Then they had a famine, and he causes Israel and Yaakov to leave Mitzrayim to go into Mitzrayim. Leave Canaan to go into Mitzrayim. Now they're in Mitzrayim. They're, safe from the famine. They begin to increase their numbers. And then they're outnumbering everybody. Now they're a threat. Yah caused all that to happen on purpose, because he wanted to bring them there in order to become Ani Yahweh. Okay. So let's continue. Verse number 5, he says, and also Wegamani, meaning, and also I, Shemati, I heard. Here's this word here. Shema means to listen and hear. And the T here is I. I have heard. perfectly. I heard the groaning of the sons of Israel. Okay. Interesting enough, in the book of Shemot, he's identifying them not as the house of Israel, but the sons of Israel. So in our books, especially when we're talking about the sons of Israel, when you get into the prophets, he doesn't call them the sons of Israel. When you get into the prophets, he calls it the house of Jacob or the house of Yisrael. Okay. So what is Yah trying to tell us? He's trying to let us know that right now I have the sons, because I told Pharaoh to let my son go, otherwise I'll kill your son. So now I'm telling you, I'm trying to establish the house, my household. I'm bringing my household together. I'm gathering my friends' children, and I'm adopting them into my family. This is the reason why they're going to know me by another name, because I'm adopting them. I'm actually planning on living with them. Okay. I'm actually going to do something for them that I've never done with their fathers. The experience that I'm going to have with you guys is going to be completely different than I had with your fathers. I told your father to cross over a land to come into a land that he didn't know, and asked him to travel and walk and be a sojourner in that land. And he did that. I also told him to do various things, and he did what I asked him to do. And by him doing so, I revealed to him myself and told him what I was going to do. And then his son, Yitzchak, I revealed myself to him and told him to stay in the land, and I'll bless him. And I did that. And he traveled from different places and locations and so forth and so on. And then Yaakov, he comes on the scene, and I have a different way for him. He's in the land and he's traveling around with his folks. And then, something happened in the family that I caused to have him be sent away so he can go get the wife that he loved and get another wife he didn't intend on, and get two other wives, because we're trying to build his family. Then he gets put out he wants to leave because he's being mistreated. And I bring him back out of the land of his uncle, of Aram in Syria, and I bring him back to his own land, because that's what we had. Okay. So I didn't have to go forcefully take him out of that land. He left because he was tired of staying there. So none of your fathers, your ancestors, ever had the experience that you're going to have with me. My experience with you is going to be quite different. That's the reason why I sent you to Egypt, is because I knew your numbers would increase, but I also sent you there so they could increase. And then I also put you in a position where you're a group of people that despised you. When you first got there, you had your brother who was there to protect you against you being despised, even though they said you're an abomination. But over time, those in particular people died, and the new king that rose didn't know anything about your brother. He didn't know anything about his leadership, and that's because it's several hundred years later. Okay, so it got lost in the sauce. So now in verse number 5, I've heard the groanings. Okay, which is different, of Israel, the sons of Israel, whom Mitzrayim, being the place of bondage and the place of, they're keeping them in bondage, Otham, and I remembered. Why Ezkor right here? I remembered the covenant. That's what I've remembered. And the way I remembered it was by hearing in the Shemati the groanings, the Na'akwath of the sons of Israel, who were being by these people. Okay. And so I remembered it. And what am I going to remember? I remembered the covenant. What covenant? I remembered the covenant that I made with your fathers. I have no covenant with you. I have covenant with your fathers. The covenant that I made with your fathers was to give them land. I told them I was going to give them the land of Canaan. That's what I promised them. And I promised them descendants. So now the descendant part of the covenant is being fulfilled, because you are outnumbered. You guys are growing. You're growing so much where people can't stand you. The sight of you just irritates people. So now I'm remembering my covenant about the land. That's why I just told you, that's what I promised your fathers, because that's what the Berith is. The Berith with them is about land of Canaan. Okay, that's the land. And that's what you guys need to remember. Okay, because that's what only I'm going to remember. I'm only remembering that. All right, when it comes to what I said. Okay. Therefore, verse number 6, he says, Lakein Amer, meaning, Amor. Thus, therefore, say, this is an imperative, this is a command. That's what that IMP right here represents. It's a command. I need you to command the sons of Israel that I need Yahweh. That's what I need you to command to them. I need Yahweh will what? Huh? I will hotziti etkem the mitakath the sivlot the Misraim and it will hatzelati the eth from the me'avodatam and then he talks about redemption. That's as far as I want to go right here on this, because this is part of additional part of our study that we're going to be learning during this week. What I want to bring to your attention is about the land, okay, and what the promise that he made, okay. I want to take you somewhere else right quick to verify that that's exactly what he promised them. So in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 26, I want you to write this down because it's in the same vein, and it's going to be around verse number 40, I believe, okay. In Leviticus chapter number 6, the Creator talks about, the problems that Israel's had. And, here we saw in Exodus that he said, I heard the groanings of the sons of Israel. Therefore, that I heard that, I remembered my covenant. So there's a lot of teachers and rabbis out here saying, and pastors and people like that says that Israel has to cry out to the Creator in order for him to remember his covenant with us. That is not necessarily true. Okay. Not that we're not going to cry out, because we will cry out, but our crying out is not because of us being oppressed and being in bondage, because he actually sent us here to be oppressed and to be under bondage and to be, punished for our crimes and our sins. So in chapter number 26 of Leviticus, let's see. I want to start at the right place. Let's say verse number. Okay. Let's start in 30. Let's just start. No, let's just stay here. Let's just start in 40. Yeah, 40 is great. It says, this whole chapter talks about the punishments and crimes of whatever they do. Verse number 40 says this. If they confess, okay, there's a word there called wehitwadu, okay, confession again, meaning raise their hands. And I want to give you a little definition though. I just don't want to say it. I want to click on it so you can see what it says. There's that word that I mentioned earlier over in Exodus, and it's called yada. Okay, yada means to cast up your hands. It has to do with your hands. That's why the first letter represents a hand. It's a yad. Okay. And that's why it's called yada, because it has to do with the hand. The hand is used to throw things and to cast. Okay. But also means to confess. Okay. But it also means there's a word in here as well that means to know and to praise. So this in particular root has to do with this. Well, what does he want us to do with our hands? Well, he wants us to make a confession that what we have done has been wrong, okay? Meaning, we can use our hands to praise Yah, but also, too, you can use the hands to take hold of things like Israel was doing, like taking hold of idols and stuff like that. So these are all the different words here that talk about, to give praise, to make confession, to throw down, to give thanks, and confess, okay? So, again, it means to confess, okay? Not only give thanks, but to confess. All right? So here we go. So if they confess their iniquity, okay, and I'm reading from right to left, and the iniquity of their fathers with their unfaithfulness, in which they were unfaithful to me also, that they have walked to me contrary. They've always been contrary to me. Verse number 41, from right to left. And also, ani alek, I was walking contrary to them. Okay. Contrary, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. So Yah has brought us into the land of our enemies. He says, if they are humbled in their hearts, and their hearts is their minds, the lavavkim, and their uncircumcised hearts are humbled, then I will, and they will accept their guilt. Okay. And maybe I should read it in English so we don't get so lost and you guys' eyes don't have to keep looking at it like that. I just wanted to make sure that if I find something that doesn't seem right, I'll bring us back over there and look at the word. So I've read it plenty of times. I should know if it's going to say it or not. Okay, 41. Let's start at 40. Then they will confess their misdeeds, which is the awon, their transgressions. Okay, because it's not just I made some mistakes. No, you transgressed. And those of their ancestors which they committed against me in their rebellion, they will admit, okay, that they went against me. That's what they have. That's what you and I have to do. We have to admit and we have to confess the misdeeds that you and I have done and those of our ancestors that all of us have done in what they call it. He calls a rebellion. So our ancestors rebelled against the Holy One, and because our ancestors are our ancestors, then you and I are the ones who also rebelled against Yahweh too. That's why he calls Israel a house of rebellion, okay? Because rebels do these things. So a lot of us don't think that we're rebels, but we are, just by sheer fact of the people that raised us, okay? So he says, and they have to admit that they went against me, okay? At that time, I will be going against them. So at the time that you were making a confession, and then you and I are making, and we're admitting, he's still going against us. Okay. So, to think that you're blessed and he's with you and everything's 100 and you're not cursed is a complete lie. And this is what people don't want to understand. They don't want to accept that they're called rebels. They don't want to admit that they went against him, that our ancestors went against him, because they said that Big Mom and Grandpa were good people. That's what I was told. They're good people. So because they're good people, that he's not mad at them. That's a lie. My grandparents, from my perspective, were good people. From his perspective, they were called rebels. Well, they didn't know. Yah does not say they didn't know. He's telling you and I that that's you and I who are left here, will confess their misdeeds, that's us, and those of their ancestors. And he's talking about why you're in the lands of your enemies, over your guilt of your misdeeds and those of your ancestors. That's why we're here. He says, at that time, I will be going against them. I'm not for you, I'm against you. And I'm bringing them into what? The lands of their enemies. That's how you know that Yah is not for us. Yah is he's going against us, because we're in a different land. We're in the lands of our enemies. I don't know how much plainer this has to be, okay? But if, it's always an if, their uncircumcised heart grows humble, and he's not talking about our ancestors, he's talking about our misdeeds, your misdeeds, my misdeeds. You and I have to go and humble ourselves. The only way we can humble ourselves is if we confess and we admit that they went against him. We have to go back to Ezekiel chapter number 20 and see what he said about them going against him. We have to admit that they broke his Shabbats. We have to admit that they hated him. We have to admit that. And if you don't accept that and you don't ever come to this humility right here, then you're never going to get out of this, okay? Because it's an if. It's a kid. It's an if, okay? And they are paid, okay, for the punishment of their misdeeds. So it's not only that you have to confess, and not only that you have to admit that you and our ancestors went against him, and not only your misdeeds and those of your ancestors together, you and I have to be paid for their misdeeds and our ancestors and ourselves. They're the ones who passed it on to us as an inheritance, and we received it. Therefore, you and I are here to fulfill us paying. So your punishment is not when you listen to me carefully. Our punishment is being paid while we're in the lands of our enemies. And this is the sad part. This is sad because our people strongly believe that while they're here, they're not being paid. They think they're blessed. But Yah says that this is where you're going to pay for your punishment. So you're not going to have to pay any punishment when you go back, because the punishment that's being paid is for that which has been done. Okay. That's what's been done. So they are paid for the punishment of their misdeeds. Okay. Okay. But our uncircumcised hearts have to grow humble. Then I will remember. Now, get your attention right here. Then. So as we saw in Exodus chapter number 6, he said that he shemata. I heard what? Their groanings. They're crying. Here, there is no groanings. There's no groaning here. Here, if there is a groaning, it should be for us to do what? From our confession, and that we're admitting, and we're supposed to loathe ourselves, like he says in Ezekiel chapter number 36, that you and I are supposed to loathe ourselves for our misdeeds and those of our ancestors. What we need to be doing is hating that which has caused us to be put out of our land. That's why you're in the lands of your enemies, because you're not in your own land. That's why I always told you that I'm going to bring you back to your own soil after you've been paid for your punishment. Okay. So that's why we're here. So when people talk about, well, this is going to be another Exodus, and it's going to happen just like it happened in Exodus, and there are going to be the 10 plagues, and then he's going to come, and there's going to be darkness, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be that, and somebody's going to show up and talk to the United Nations. None of that's going to happen. It's not going to happen like that, because we were sent here by Yah. That's different. I want you to draw your attention when he says, I'm going to remember the covenant. I'm going to remember the covenant. Then what? Then what? After you and I confess and we admit, and what? We grow humble. And then you and I are paid. So do you see the process? Number 1, confess. Number 2, admit. Number 3, grow humble. Number 4, paid. Paid. Now, this is a question that a lot of people may ask, and we can sum it up this way. Let me clear the screen. Everyone on Zoom right now has confessed. Everyone on Zoom has admitted. Everyone on Zoom has humbled them uncircumcised hearts, because you've been turning around doing what he said. The last part that you and I are waiting for is this. This is the thing that's in question. When is that done? When is the payment fulfilled? That's the question. You see? So we know that in Exodus, that he said they were there to 430 years to the date. They didn't leave one day sooner than what they're supposed to leave. That's why he's mentioning that to us. It's because what he's telling us is there's a certain time period, like he shows in Ezekiel, that he had Ezekiel lay on his side. I think it was 390 days for Israel and 40 days for Yehuda. And each one of these were for the years of their transgressions against him. I hope you guys, I don't know if you remember that part in Ezekiel. Okay. So he had him doing certain things to let them know that there's a certain time. There was a punishment of 70 years for Babylon. Right? There was a punishment of what? Somebody tell me how many years in the wilderness?
40.
40. There, Yah says that the punishment for the Amorites have to come after 400 years, 4 generations for the Amorites, and then you're going to go in. So what we do know is this. We know that Yah does have a time period in order to execute judgment. There's a certain time. We also read in the book of Ezekiel where he told Egypt that I'm going to put you out of your land for 40 years, and then I'll bring you back. So what is Yah telling us? Yah's telling us that you and I have a very specific time. There's a very specific time period, and when he's going to come and get us. And that's what everybody's trying to figure out. When is this time done? When are we done with our paying for our punishment? Okay. That's what I've been looking for. When I'm searching in the Torah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to find out when is it going to be paid. So he gives us a clue, though. Listen to the clue. Listen to this beautiful clue. Verse number 42 says this. He said they're going to be paid in 41. Okay. Let's look at 42. 42 says, then I will remember. See? I will remember what? I'm going to remember my covenant with Yaakov, also my covenant with Yitzchak, and my covenant with Abraham. Somebody tell me, what covenant is he talking about? According to what we've read tonight.
The covenant for the land?
The land. Yes. Don't be afraid. Ka'anan. That's what he told him he's going to give him. That's the promise. It's called the promised land. You have plenty of movies, plenty of cartoons, plenty of everything talking about the promised land. I mean, even Martin Luther King talked about it. Okay. The promised land. I see the promised land. Well, it is a promised land. Okay. So that's what he's going to remember. Then, so we know that these steps have to happen in that order. He says, I will remember my covenant, my barithi, my covenant. Okay. I will remember, listen to this. I will remember the what? The land. What land? The land of Canaan. When all this other stuff happens, but it's when paid. The punishment. 43. For the land, continuing on what he's going to remember, will lie desolate without them. Okay. So the land doesn't have anybody on it. Not Israel. Israel is not on the land. The land will lie desolate without. These are his words. And this whole chapter number 26 of the book of Leviticus is talking about the curses that Yah is going to bring upon us. Okay. Not only Deuteronomy 28 is Leviticus 26 is telling you how he's going to have you eat your own kids, but the sword after you kill you, kick you out the land, all kind of stuff. And here he's ending this in particular teaching of telling them that you guys need to be paid for your punishment when after you get into the lands of your enemies. So the land will lie desolate without them. The them here is Israel. And it, the land, will be paid its Shabbats while it lies desolate without them. So now we have the next word that's used again, the second time, to be paid. So our payment is in direct connection with the payment. So you and I are being paid punishment for our misdeeds, and the land is going to be paid her Shabbats. So you and I are getting punishment and the land is getting rest. The reason why the land is getting rest is because when we were there, we didn't give the land its rest. So here's the thing. What I'm trying to show you tonight and teach you tonight is that there's a direct correlation between the land and Israel, meaning they are going to be paid for their punishment of their misdeeds, and the land will lie abandoned until it is paid. She's going to, they're here right here is it really should say she, because she's land, will be paid her Shabbats while it lays desolate without them. That's the reason why it's abandoned, because we're the people who's supposed to be on the land, and they will be paid the punishment for their misdeeds because they rejected my rulings and they loathe my regulations. Here is ma'as. Just put it up here for you. And the other one is hatred, which is bazah, meaning hate it. They hate it. They hated what I told them. They had hatred for my judgments. That's the reason why we're not there. It's because we rejected what he gave us and we hated what he told us to do. And he's telling us what those misdeeds are. It's what our ancestors did. They rejected his rulings and they hated his regulations. Okay. So this is the reason why he's asking us to confess, admit, and listen and humble ourselves. And then you're going to be paid. So through our humbling process, you and I are going through this very difficult time. And this is what we don't want. But if we don't want this, then how could we want not that for ourselves, but we want us not receiving and accepting our punishment is saying that the land is not worthy of her getting paid by us not being there, because we're the ones who caused her to lose her rest. And I'll verify that. It's important for us to know. Okay. Listen what he says. Verse 32, just saying 32, I will desolate the land so that your enemies living in it will be astonished by it. I will disperse you. Okay. I will disperse among the nations. In 33, I will draw out the sword in pursuit of you. Your land will be a desolation and your cities a wasteland. Then, after I finish doing this, then at last the land will be paid its Shabbats, as long as it lies desolate and you are in the lands of your enemies. The land will rest and be repaid its Shabbats. That word repaid means shalem. Same root that has to do with our word shalom. The only difference is the E here and the O here, but they both share the same root. And basically what it is shalom. Shalom and shalem means the same thing. Shalom. And the other one is shalem. That's it. Same letters. So what is he trying to tell us? Shalom means to be made whole. And shalem means to be paid back, to be made whole. You can't have shalom without no shalem. You have to have shalem. There is no shalom. Since our land is desolate, does the eliminate? Yes, absolutely. Great question. Absolutely. Because Yah says nobody will ever go in that land, and especially someone who's uncircumcised. So you got to know that right now is not the land. That's not the land. It's impossible for it to be the land. It would make Yah a liar, and we know that that's not true. It would make Yah a liar. He says it's going to lay desolate, and we see that through all the text that Yah says it's going to be desolate. And then I'm going to rebuild all the foreign places, but I'm going to bring the whole entire house of Israel back. Okay. So that place is not the land. No one knows where that land is. Some people think it's here in the United States of America. Some people think it's in Africa. Some people think it's over there in the Middle East. But what we know is that Yah says is going to lay desolate. There won't be anybody, because until she's repaid, nobody, until there's shalem for her, till she gets the shalem that she has, there won't be no shalom. There won't be no shalom unless there's shalem payment. Okay. So you can see that it's directly connected between her being repaid and us being sent into the lands of our enemies. Okay. So it says, yes, as long as it lies desolate, it will have rest. The rest it did not have during your Shabbats, not his Shabbats. What they were doing, as you know, in the Torah and in the prophets, they were working and they were selling and they were buying on Shabbat, and they couldn't wait until it was over so they could get back to business. And they actually went so far to even conduct business on that day. And Yah tells us in Ezekiel 20 that they broke my Shabbats and they loathed them. They hated what I told them to do. Okay. So in conclusion, for tonight's lesson, I'm trying to get you to understand that 42 says, I will remember my covenant. Just like he says in Exodus that I remembered the covenant. In Exodus, I remember the covenant. Exodus 6 that we just read said, I remembered it when I heard their groanings. Okay, so Yah's not looking for groanings here. Yah's looking for a few things. Yah is looking for us to confess. Yah is looking for us to admit. Yah is looking for us to humble ourselves, our uncircumcised hearts. And Yah is saying you guys need to be paid back. You got to be paid. Shalem, you got to get paid. Your punishment. That's what you got to be paid. And remember, and that's part of his character. I don't exonerate the guilty. So you and I started our lesson today, and I'm talking about how thankful we are that he hasn't destroyed us. And he's going to tell us why I didn't destroy you. Okay. So it's not only going to remember these covenants about the land. Okay. I'm going to remember all my covenants that I made with your fathers, and I'm going to remember the land. I'm going to remember that. So I'll remember what I said, and I'm going to remember the land because the land is part of it. And he says, for the land will lie abandoned without them, and it will be paid its Shabbats. And they will be paid the punishment for their misdeeds. You're going to pay what you owe. That's what he's telling you. You're going to pay. So don't try to rush the process. Okay. Yet, in spite of all that, in spite of what? In spite of everything that I just told you in chapter number 26, even from verse number 1, in spite of all that, everything that they've done to me, I will not reject them when they are in the lands of their enemies. So Yah is not going to reject them, Israel, when they're in the lands of their enemies. I will not hate them to the point of utterly destroying them and thus break my covenant with them. Okay. I'm not going to do that. And breaking my covenant with who? With them. Because I am Yahweh, their Elohim, not El Shaddai. I'm Yahweh. As Yahweh tells us, the reason why he's Yahweh is because of what he has done for Israel. He has announced to the world that he is our Elohim. He has announced to the nations that I am their savior. I've announced to the nations that I will bring them out of the land. I announced to the nations that I would do this. I announced to the nations that I will be their Elohim. I announced to the nations that they will always grow in number. I announced to the nations that they're my set apart people. I let everybody know that they're special to me. They're Segula. I let everyone know that there is no other. So I'm not going to hate them. Because if I did hate them and if I did break my covenant with them, I would have to destroy them. If I broke my covenant with them, I would have to utterly destroy them. That's the only way that you and I covenant would ever be broken with Yah, is that he would have to utterly destroy us. And he won't do that because he says, I am Yahweh. And who is Yahweh? Exodus chapter number 34, my favorite, verse number 6, tells you that I am Elohim. I am, he announces his name. He said, I'm compassionate. What else did he tell us about him? Somebody give me something else. What else did he tell us about? He's compassionate. What else did he say about himself in Exodus 34?
Grace and truth.
Huh?
Rich in grace and truth.
I'm rich, grace, and mercy. I'm rich in grace and truth, mercy. I'm merciful. I also told you that I will what? I forgive crimes and I forgive sins, but I will not exonerate the guilty. So that's found in that, and that by him being our Elohim, he's letting us know that all the things that I've told you that I am, I'm going to be that to you. That's why I'm not going to break my covenant with you. Okay. That's why. That's why all the different times that I told you in Ezekiel 20 that I wanted to kill every last one of you, but Moshe stopped me, and because I thought about my name. We better be wait a minute. We better be thankful that his name is Yahweh. That's why his name can't be JC. That's why his name can't be Yeshua. That's why his name can't be Yahweh Shai. That's why his name can't be Eye Asher Ahaya Ahaya. That's why his name can't be those names. Because everything that he said is in his name is what's causing him not to utterly destroy us and thus breaking his covenant with us. Because of this name, I'm the one who brought you out. My name is mentioned 7 times in my covenant. I told you the first words of my covenant is Anoki Yahweh. First words I've ever told you in my covenant. Anoki Yahweh. I'm Yahweh. So you better be thankful. And this is the reason why they've been trying to tell you to forget about my name and give you another name. 45, rather for their sakes. Whose sakes? Their sakes. That's me and you. I will remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. So the covenant he's talking about is not the covenant that he made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the land. He's not talking about that one. He's talking about the one that he's going to remember this covenant with that he made with our ancestors at Mount Sinai, the ones whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. He's not telling you and I to say we're sorry for what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did and confess and admit that we went like them against him. So when these people around here telling you that no one could keep Yah's law, statutes, and commandments, they are a lie. Our ancestors were Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. They did what Yahweh said. Genesis 26:5 tells you. Genesis 18 and 19 tells you. It tells you all the time that our ancestors did what Yahweh said. It's just they're stubborn, stiff-necked children. Why are they stiff-necked? Because of the way they were treated. That's why they're stiff-necked, you guys, is because the way they were treated. The hard labor that was put upon them hardened their minds. It hardened their souls. It made them very stiff-necked. They were very resistant to hearing anything. That's when Moshe went to go talk to him. They didn't want to hear. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. We have nothing to say. We have nothing to talk about. Because they wanted Yah to move on their behalf without them having to make any decisions. They didn't want to get rid of their idols. You understand? But rather for their sakes, me and you, I will remember the covenant of their ancestors. That's us, whom I brought out of the land of Mizraim, with the nations watching, so that I might be their Elohim. I am Yahweh. Again, he says here, Anoki Yahweh. See, so now do you see the connection? So though I brought them out, so I can be their Elohim. Yahweh's going to bring us out so he can be what? I can be their Elohim. I can be their power. I can be their sustenance. I can be their protector. I can be their guidance. I can be the light that they need. I can be their wisdom. I can be their knowledge and their understanding. I can be their righteousness. These are the Kokim and the Mishpatim and the Torah that Yahweh himself gave to the people of Israel. Here is not people, it's sons of Israel, including all the men and women on Mount Sinai through Moshe. Yahweh himself. These are not Moshe's words. These are not his words. They were only given through Moshe. Moshe is like the person who Yah has said, you guys want to listen to him? Then you listen to him because I set him as my servant. I made him the one that I decided to choose to give my words through him. I gave it through Moshe. So if you guys are going to learn anything, understand how important it is to read what Moshe said. God's telling you guys are trying to focus on what I said, like you're trying to find a loophole. You guys need to only listen to what he said. Because guess what Moshe is going to tell you? Moshe is the mediator and Moshe is the mouthpiece for me. I'm the one who gave him the words to say. So when you talk about my coke, not my laws, my coke or kokim, when you talk about kokim and my rulings, which is my mishpatims and my Torah, I gave it all through him. I'm telling you the way it is. So Yah is letting us know. And hopefully this is a lesson that you guys can understand and appreciate. Yah is letting us know that I'm not waiting for anybody to groan and cry. I'm not waiting for your backs to be hurting from labor. I'm not waiting for somebody to cry about how you're being treated. I already told you through Moshe what I'm looking for. There's an expiration date on your punishment. So what I told you, there's a link between the Shabbats in the land and a link between our punishment. They're hand in hand. He said, as long as she's desolate, they're not going to be in the land of their enemies. So it goes both ways. So she's going to be paid and they're going to be paid. So once the land is done with her payment, then you and I can go back home. You understand? So the question is how many Shabbats did Israel break? How many Shabbats? Somebody tell me. If you can figure out how many Shabbats, and I tried to, I figure out how many Jubilees that they had. And I came up with one time I said they were, well, a Jubilee is every 50 years. So, there's a 400-year prophecy. So it has to be eight Jubilees, because that's 400 years. But it didn't work out that way. You see, you got to figure out how many Shabbats have they broken. So the whole time that they were breaking the Shabbats, Yah was already planning their punishment. Do you understand? He's already planned the punishment. So you and I we don't know how many Shabbats were broken. And because we don't know that, we don't know when he's going to come and get us. You don't know. But there are clues. I don't say that there's no clues. So we found a clue that, okay, they'll confess and admit. Well, have we done that? Yes, we've done that. Have we humbled our hearts? Not all of us, but here online we have. There's a group of people out here have not humbled their hearts and will refuse to admit that our ancestors went against Yah. Okay, they haven't done that. And the last part is they said that their sins are paid for through Yeshua. Do you know how angry that's making the Creator right now? That they're saying everything that they're going through right now has already been paid for. Yah says when you're in the land of your enemies, that's when you're going to be paid. So you can't have a double thing, right? Either you're going to be paid for it or somebody else is going to take your place. This is the reason why they want a savior, is because they want somebody to pay for their punishment. And guess what that's called? That's called wickedness. That's called going against what the Holy One of Israel said. They're slapping him in the face with what they want to happen. We don't care about what you said. We know that, hey, Peter, James, and John said you pay for our sins. And I always ask the question, if they paid, then why are we still being paid right now? And no one can answer that question. No one. And I challenge anybody. They still won't answer it because they don't want to be paid. So we're being paid. We're going to pay what we owe because that's the kind of Creator that we have now. But there are things that do tell us that we're in the last days. There's a lot of things that are pointing towards the last days. Okay. Number one, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 30, I don't want to leave you on a bad note. I want to leave you with something that you can understand and you can kind of meditate on till I'll see you on Yom Kamishi. Okay. Yah says in Deuteronomy, the Davarim, meaning the words, and his words that he gave to Moshe, because remember, the only person that you and I are supposed to be listening to is Moshe. The prophets are trying to direct people back to Moshe, the Torah of Moshe. When the time arrives that all these things have come upon you, both the blessing and the curse, which I presented to you, and you are there among the nations. Now he's given us context. You're there among the nations to which Yahweh has driven you. Then at last, you will start thinking about what's happened to you. And you will return, shuv, to Yahweh, your Elohim, and pay attention to what he has said, which will be what? Exactly what I'm ordering you to do today. Who's talking? Moshe. He's telling us the words that what Yahweh has said. So if you're looking for an additional revelation, you're wrong. You got to go back and pay attention to what Yahweh has said. Past tense, which will be exactly what I'm ordering you to do today. You, your children, with all your heart and all your being. That's your heart is your mind. Your being is your appetite, your stomach, and all your desires. He said, at that point, Yahweh will reverse your exile. At what point? When you and I go back and do exactly what Yah has said and turn to him with all of our heart and all of our being. And not just you, but your children too. Could it very well be because your kids are not 100 with him? I think, you know what? I'm about to lose my mind. Okay. At that point, Yahweh, your Elohim, will reverse your exile and show you mercy. The mercy is in his name. Remember, he said, I'm merciful. And he will what? Return you and gather you from all the peoples which Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. Okay. That's when it's going to happen. That's the mercy. That's him showing mercy. When he says he's merciful, he's full of mercy and compassion. The mercy of Yah is when he reverses our exile and returns us. He will return and gather you from all the peoples to which Yahweh has scattered you. Now, I told you I wasn't going to mess your evening up, but I'm going to right now. Yah says that you and your children, with all your heart and all your being, guess what? Could it very well be that we have turned to the Holy One of Israel with all of our heart and all of our being, but our children haven't? Could it be that he's waiting for them? That's a thought, isn't it? See, that's a thought. Are your children 100% turned back to Yah? Are they wholehearted? Are they, and you say, well, you shouldn't judge anybody. You know, you don't know their heart. No, guess what? I know their actions. I know their deeds. I know their motives. I know their intentions because of what their actions are, their manner of life and conduct. I mean, he even told the prophets, look at them, look what they're doing. So you can look at somebody and ask yourself, are my children 100% turned back? Are they back to the Torah? Are they interested in learning the Hebrew? What's going on? Are they turned? You might be turned, but are your children? This is what Yah is looking for. See, we were raised, listen to this, that your parents, all our parents needed to do was they needed to do right, and then the whole house was saved. And then if they believed, then we were Christians because they were Christians. And it was passed on through that. We didn't care what the actions. You asked you what you were, you told them I'm a Christian. Why? Because my grandfather was a Christian or a Catholic or whatever it is. Okay. But Yah's not asking for the adults and the parents to turn. He's asking for everybody in the house to turn back to him. And to be honest with you, I don't think people are taking this serious. And we're so worried about other people. You're so worried about ministry on the outside of other people who don't have nothing to do with your house. You should worry about your home. You should be worried about your kids. And your children are not just your children, it's your grandchildren too. Because those are your children, by the way. Those are your sons and your daughters that go through your sons and your daughters. They're still your sons and daughters. Because Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are our fathers. We're the children of them. We're not their direct line, like from them, but we are from them. You understand what I'm saying? So Yah is letting us know that the only way that anything is ever going to work out for you guys is if you hit the terms and conditions. So there's coming a moment in time where we need to be paid. Once that payment's up, then that's it. Once that time is up, it's it. That's it. In the interim, your children have to turn back to Yah with a whole heart. And if they don't understand that, because they don't want to go back to the land, they want to stay here and they want to be entertained here. And you know what Yah says about that? They're not wholehearted towards me. They're not like Caleb. They're not the little, he was willing to go wherever Yah told him, like a dog, follow wherever Yah says. So look in your home. First of all, look at yourself. Then you look at your children and you ask them, and you need to sit and have a conversation with them. Are you wholehearted? If you're not, that's one of the reasons why we're not going back to the land at this moment. And you may not make it because both the child and the parent belong to me. And whoever sins against me, and this is Ezekiel 18, that's the one who's going to die. That's the one who's going to die. But it doesn't mean that you and I can't pour forth an effort and try to talk to them and try to encourage them. Because I'm going to be honest with you. When we go out to be judged in the wilderness, if we did not, if I didn't do what Yah says, well, I'm not going into the land. Well, how do you know that? Moshe didn't go into the land. Moshe didn't go into the land. Aharon didn't get to the land. Miriam didn't get to the land. And these were the shepherds that led Israel out of the land of Mizraim. These are the people that received the Torah directly from the Holy One of Israel. They didn't get in the land. So if we want to play games and we want to continue to make this a religion, I got bad news for us. That's not going to happen. Anybody that's not wholehearted with Yah is not going into the land. Caleb and Yehoshua went into the land. He told Caleb, because you fully followed me. You wholehearted with me. So wherever you put your foot, that's yours. So if you love your children, you're going to sit down and talk with them. You're going to have a real conversation. You love your grandchildren, you're going to sit down and talk with them. You're going to forget about everybody else outside your house. You're going to talk to your kids. And you're going to show them and tell them, and you tell them, and you tell them with a PL, with a forceful way to tell them that Yah is going to put you to death. That's what, if you don't do what he says, he's going to kill you. Okay. And I want to, and he's going to kill you in the wilderness. Okay. And you said, well, you shouldn't tell them, you gotta let a child make up their own mind, and just be nice with them. Don't do that. You don't want to push them away from them. You want to make it, easy. It's your approach. It's how you approach everything. That's what I was told, right? No, you approach it the way Yahweh told Moshe to approach it. You go tell the people what I said. You tell them like the prophets told them. Okay. The word of Yahweh came to me. What does it mean that you keep quoting this proverb in the land of Israel? When parents eat sour grapes, the children's teeth are set on edge, because that was a proverb, meaning that whatever the parents do, the children suffer because of it. Okay. And they're going to, because they were thinking every time the parent did something, the child was going to suffer, and God was going to kill the child for what the parent did. As I live, says Yahweh Elohim, I swear that you will never quote this proverb in Israel. Never again. Look, all lives belong to me. Both the parent's life and the child's life are equally mine. So it is the person who sins himself who must die. Yah tells Ezekiel in chapter number 22, chapter number 20, chapter 18, chapter number 33, the person that sins against me is going to die. Deuteronomy chapter number 32, Exodus chapter number 32, the soul that sins against me is the one who's going to die. Jeremiah chapter number 31, the soul that sins against me is the one who's going to die. The person who sins is the one who's going to die. Tell the wicked person, whoever sins against me is the one who's going to die. And if you're counting on the righteousness of your parent, you're dead. So you have to tell your children that if they don't follow Yah wholeheartedly, he's going to kill them. That's it. There's no one going into the land that's a rebel. There's no one's going to go into this land that does not wholehearted with Yah. This is the last time. This place where we're sent here is to say we're sorry, confess and admit, and humble ourselves. And if your children are not willing to be wholeheartedly, and don't fight them, if they're underneath your care and they're young, and if rebelling against you, they're dead anyway, period. But at least you told them the truth. At least you try to spare them. And you're saying, well, that can't happen. Well, let me tell you something. Aaron had 2 sons. And they weren't little kids. Did he kill them? Yes, he did. And what did he tell Aaron? Don't take off your turban. None of you or your brother, none of your other sons. Don't mourn for them. Don't even cry. You do, I'm killing everybody in the camp. Don't cry for them. Did he kill Karak and everybody, the 350 men? Yes. Did he kill the other people who opened up the ground and let everybody, them and their kids and their donkeys and all possession go into the ground? Yes, he did. Who did he plague when these people did all this stuff? Who did he kill? Did he not kill the man who went and stole the robe and the gold and the silver and hid it? Did he kill him and his whole entire family? He sure did. So what I'm trying to explain to you is the Elohim that you and I serve is not the God of the New Testament. If you and I cross this Elohim, he's killing us. He's not going to kill all of us, because there's some faithful ones. He said, but I'm going to kill you. I'm going to wipe you out. And that's it. So is it a death threat? Yes, it is. It's a death threat. Are you saying he's trying to force me to do what he says? No, he's trying to tell you, you better turn from your wickedness. Because when I come, I'm not taking any prisoners. I'm coming and I'm going to judge. And if you're not on the right side of where we're supposed to be, you know, wholehearted, your children are not going in. And if you're not wholehearted, you're not going in. Because I'm not accepting anything less than a whole heart. There ain't no partial study. There is no, I just, do it for fun or just entertainment and all this kind of stuff. This is not what we're involved with, people. We're talking about inheritance. We're talking about Yah being our creator. And he's not sparing anybody else. Surely he's not going to spare those who are not wholehearted with him. So just keep in mind, this is the reason why we do our study. This is the reason why you hear me yelling and screaming. It's because you need to wake up. This is for my YouTube audience as well. Wake up and stop playing games, because you're dealing with not a human being. You're dealing with Yahweh. You're dealing with the self-existing one. You're dealing with the one who will not acquit the wicked whatsoever. If you're guilty, you're not being exonerated. If you use his name in vain, you're not going unpunished. If you have decided to be righteous and turn to any type of wickedness, none of your righteousness will be remembered. Just like if you're wicked and you turn from your wickedness to righteousness, none of your wickedness will be remembered. Yah says, I don't want anybody, the wicked, I don't want anybody to die. So it's up to us. That's why you and I are being paid for our punishment. We have to take responsibility. That's the lesson for tonight. I went a little bit over, but I had to let you know. Don't let anybody lie to you and tell you that this is a group project because you're Israel and you're black, you're going into the land. It's not going to happen. If you don't listen, if we don't do what he says, and he says over in Ezekiel 20, he says those who are rebelling, that means there's a constant thing by not doing what he says. So there's an expectation that he expects from the people of Israel while they're in the lands of their enemies. So people say they don't have to do what he says. They don't have to keep the Moedims. They don't have to keep the Shabbat. They're all going to die. They're all going to be put to death. And you and I are going to see it. And then he says, after I do that, then you'll know that I'm Yahweh. That means that I'm going to, whatever I told you I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. Okay. So always be encouraging to people because they need to come and learn. Somebody reached out to me and said, well, I'm surprised people are not even looking at, you got a couple of people, you got like maybe 100 some views on this or whatever, or subscriber. What's the problem? The problem is that it's the truth. It's only going to be a small remnant, you guys, and you're part of that small remnant. You and I are part of a very small group of people that are going to survive. It's not a fear tactic. It's the truth. Yah says that I'm not going to destroy all of them, but all the rage and all the anger and all the fury that Yah never poured out on us is going to be poured out on us when we get out to the wilderness. Those who rebelled. So all the times that he said, I wanted to do it, but I didn't because of my name, because somebody was watching, all that kind of stuff, all that's out the door. When we get back into the wilderness, all the fury of Yah is hitting. Every last drop is going to hit those people. Don't be one of them people. With that, I say to you, Lila Tov and Shalom. Any questions? Any statements?
Good lesson. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Okay. So land got to be paid. You and I got to be paid. Once that payment's up, that's when we're out of here. We're out of here. When that's done, when that's due, it's over. So when Yah decides, then it's over, it's over. And there ain't nothing anybody can do to change it. And often I think maybe he didn't put the date in there just to kind of figure out who's who. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you only going to follow me? Just think about it. You're only going to follow me because you got the date. Everyone else, I mean, Babylonia, you guys got 70 years. Daniel's like, wait, we've been here for 70 years. They had some clues, okay? And they had some definite times. But now there is no times. There is no time. He's just saying it. I'm going to be paid this. So if and look, and as long as we've been out of the land, why should he give us a date? Why should he say for 400 years? Why should he do? Because everybody will get their act together because the 400 years are here. How about I just catch you and see whether or not you were doing what I'm saying, regardless to how long it took? Because I'm the master. I don't tell my servant everything. I tell my servant only what they need to know so they can do what I told them. Because the secret things belong to Yahweh, but those things that have been revealed to us belong to us and our children so that we may be able to do the Torah. Yeah, it's not really, whether you and I are in the land or not, the Torah is still supposed to be followed, even while we're not in the land, to the best of your ability, with a wholeheartedness. You can't do everything, but that's okay. Do you have a heart to do it? If you had to do it and you could do it, would you do it? Yes, I would. If you had to bring an offering, would you bring it? Yes, I would. If you had the basket you had to bring, would you do it? Yes, I would. But how's that determined? Well, how do you respond to stuff right now? Are you breaking your back to try to make sure that the Shabbat was holy and it is set apart? Are you guarding that? Are you going out and buying the special food and you really treating it like it's really set apart? Or are you just playing a game? See? So those are the things we need to be thinking about. All right. Good to see you again, Kavika. All right, you guys. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, Lala.